This is a block of metal. Bring a magnet close to it, and it warms up. Take the magnets away, and it gets colder than it started. We have known metal does that since 1881. The first supermarket fridge that actually runs on it went in last year. That's 140 years. And things hold it up wasn't the physics. It wasn't the fancy metal either. The most expensive part of the magnetic fridge is the part nobody writes paper about it, and it was just on your screen. In 1890, Tesla felt a pattern on an engine with no working fluid, just magnets and metal. 2 years later, Edison failed his own version. Neither one worked. What worked instead is the thing running in your kitchen right now. Squeeze a gas, let it condense, drop the pressure, and let it boil. Cheap, reliable, and 100 years of turning behind it. Which is the problem? A machine that mature has stopped getting better, as the gas inside it keep getting changed. Every replacement has its own issues. So the idea Tesla and Edison could not make work keeps coming back. The effect is real, it's just a lot smaller than either of them thought. Here is how it works. A magnetic material keeps a pair of disorder in which ways its atoms are pointing. Physicists call that entropy. It just means the number of ways the parts can be arranged. Put it in a magnetic field, and all of those atoms line up, and that's less disorder. But in a sealed block, disorder can't just disappear. It's got to go somewhere. So it moves into the atoms shaking, and the block gets hotter. Take the field away, and it runs in reverse. The atoms scramble. They pull the disorder back out of the shaking, and the block gets colder. So there is no fluid, no boiling, and nothing evaporates. You're just moving heat by shuffling disorder between places. Dubai suggested cooling things this way in 1926. Georg came up with it separately a year later, and in 1933, he and McDougall used it to get colder than 1 degree above absolute zero. It won him a Nobel Prize. And then it sits in the deep freeze end of the physics for 40 years. It got no closer to your kitchen because of one number. Gadolinium is the metal everyone measures against. Put it in a decent magnetic field, and it changes temperature by less than 4 degrees. Your fridge has to hold about 30 degrees between the milk and your kitchen. So the metal gives you roughly a tenth of what you need once per cycle. In 1976, a NASA engineer named Brown decided to muscle through it anyway. He used gadolinium plates and 7 Tesla superconducting magnets, and he opened up a 47-degree gap. 7 Tesla is not an appliance. That's MRI hardware. It's in liquid helium just to exist. The fix showed up in 1982 from an engineer named John Buckley. Grind the metal into a packed bag and run water through it. Magnetize it. Push the water one way, dump the heat out of the hot end. Demagnetize it, push the water back. Pick the cold up. Every pass pulls the 2 ends a little further apart. Do it enough times, and the bed holds a gap way bigger than the metal could ever make on its own. The metal isn't the refrigerant, the bed is. By 1997, a team at Astronetics Corporation had one running at room temperature, about 3 kilos of gadolinium. By 2015, the same company teamed up with BASF and hired to put a working magnetic wine cooler on the floor in Las Vegas. The press release said it would be on sale in a couple of years, but it never shipped. Here's why. When people cost these machines out, the rankings come back to the same way every time, and it is not the one you would guess. The magnet is the biggest cost. The electricity to run it is the second. And the magnetic metal itself is basically free. The rare earth alloy everybody writes papers about it is the cheap part. And a magnet does not behave like a compressor. Shrink a compressor is get cheaper. Shrink magnetic coolers, and you still need almost the same magnets. So the smaller you make, the worse the economic gets, which is exactly the wrong direction for something that goes in a kitchen. And then there is where the magnets come from. China makes roughly 75% of them. So the magnets locked in, the fields locked in. That leaves one thing you could still change. Let's name iron silicon, and the cheapest rare earth on the chart. This one flips all at once, and that bets you about double what gadolinium gives you. It also by you a problem called hysteresis. The flip going forward and the flip coming back don't follow the same path. The gap between them is the energy you burn. You can shrink it with chemistry. At a cobalt, the flips get gentler and losses drops, but so does the cooling. Every group in this field is sitting somewhere on that trait, except a big chunk of that loss isn't chemistry at all. It depends on how thick the piece is, and how well it touches the water, and the shape you cut it into, how fast you swing the field. Thin, porous, well-connected pieces lost less than solid chunks of the exactly same stuff. So this was never really a chemistry problem. A German company called Magnetocaloric builds a cabinet out of exactly that material. One of them sits in a working supermarket for 11 weeks, dropped straight in a propane case rated at 400 watts. It held the food at 4 to 5 degrees, and it used 15% less power than the propane unit it replaced. 15% measured in a real store, against the 35% that press release promised back in 2015. That gap is what stuff actually loses on the way from the lab to the shelf. A chilled case only needs a small temperature gap, and small gaps are exactly where these machines look their best. Widen the gap, and the efficiency falls off a cliff. A supermarket case is the easy job. A freezer isn't. A house isn't either. Magnoserm's next machine is 125 kilowatts, aiming at data centers. And there is a second target for liquefying hydrogen, which is about where Georg was standing in 1933. He wasn't building an appliance. He was chasing the coldest temperature anyone had ever reached. 140 years. And maybe nothing was ever wrong with the effect. It was just pointed at a different machine.